So the 355 is a spy movie starring a killer cast of ladies. You have Jessica Chastain, Lupita Nyong'o, Diane Kruger, even Penélope Cruz. I mean, it sounds so great. What? Who's directing it? Simon Kinberg. The guy who did X-Men Dark Phoenix? Oh. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today, yes, I'm diving into the 355. A huge thank you to Universal Pictures for giving me the chance to watch this early for a review, and you can watch it too in theaters January 7th, so this weekend, where you can, of course, safely get to a movie theater. Now, even though I was joking, of course, sort of, in the intro, the movie is definitely directed by Simon Kinberg, who did direct X-Men Dark Phoenix. That's his only feature-length directing credit that he has to his name so far, and if you all have been following the channel, I didn't like that movie too much, but I was going into it with an open mind because of the cast. I mean, these names are amazing. Jessica Chastain, Lupita Nyong'o, Diane Kruger, Penélope Cruz, Sebastian Stan, and even Bingbing fan. So I think that this entire cast is what really got me into the mood, and then I looked at the plot and I thought, okay, I could see them having fun with this. The 355 is all about a group of spies who find themselves after one thing, a top secret weapon that could destroy the world and cause World War III. And yes, eventually our leading ladies do get together and go on these missions, and I will tell you that the movie's not very layered, so it's not going to be hard to track, but there were some things that didn't work, a lot of things unfortunately, but there are some things that I liked about the movie too. So before we get into my positives and my negatives, guys, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about and reviewing movies and TV shows like this all the time, so you're not going to want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, and hit the thumbs up button if you are a big fan of these actors or just a fan of spy movies in general, and get loud down below and let me know which spy movie is your favorite. Alrighty guys, so let's get right into the positives because hey, I'm an optimistic guy and we're not going to get into the negatives yet. And it really does start with our cast, and I like all of these actors a ton, so seeing them together, I mean, you can tell they were having some fun, and they do the best job that they can with this script, which is not great, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the action seemed cool. Now, was it shot very well? Again, we'll get into it, but I will say that it just seemed like they were kicking a ton of butt, and I enjoyed seeing them all get together. I just kind of wish that the movie itself had them all together for a lot longer than the film really did. But again, this is the positive section, so no negativity just yet. And I will say that the score is fine here too. I mean, it's okay, it's not terrible. And of course, one thing I wish the movie did a little bit more was give us Sebastian Stan and Jessica Chastain together. I think both of them have really fun chemistry in the first act in this film, and they were really carrying the load for the most part, but there are some questionable decisions surrounding Sebastian Stan's character, and he's not really around often, and that's not a terrible thing, but when it is the strongest part of the first hour of your movie, well, you probably should stick to the formula just a little bit more. And when it comes to any sort of standout performances, I mean, Jessica Chastain is up there. I enjoyed Lupita Nyong'o being this super genius tech spy, and Diane Kruger does a pretty darn good job at being this rough and tough German spy. So there are some things here that I can honestly say that fans of these actors will enjoy in the first half. I think it's really the second half of the movie where things get a little muddled, but for me, that's the only chunk of positivity that I could pull out of this film, because guys, the 355 is, well, it's not great. I didn't come into this movie expecting a whole lot because I wasn't too confident in the director and the writer here for this film, and unfortunately, nothing about the film is awful in front of the camera, to be honest, with our cast, but it's everything behind the scenes that really dooms this movie from the start. And it starts with the direction and the writing, you guys. I just don't think Simon Kinberg hits a home run here, and he really didn't sell me on his first feature-length project and how he handled Dark Phoenix. Fortunately, I just don't know if he knows how to direct an action movie, and it really hurts to see because I wanted to root for him, and I did root for him, but after the end credits came, I just thought, man, I just don't know if I can honestly be confident for a Simon Kinberg project anymore. And then when it comes to the writing in this movie, I felt that it was incredibly generic and very pedestrian. I'll be honest, guys, I don't even think the cast believed what they were reading in the script. I think that they tried to add a little bit of drama, but when the movie itself is giving these really terrible lines, every other line is a very generic, bland, one-dimensional bit of dialogue. I just could never get into the groove of this movie, and I don't even think the movie had a groove to begin with, which kind of stinks because it never really sets expectations, and we don't really spend time enough with these characters for some moments later on to feel gut-wrenching. So unfortunately, I just think the writing here in the script, it is just so darn generic, very predictable, and it doesn't serve the cast very well at all. And there were some really questionable decisions made for some of our main characters here. And at the top of the list is Penélope Cruz. She plays Graciela, who's this psychologist turned somewhat of a spy because she's forced into this situation now where she has to go and try and retrieve that device that could be basically bad news for the rest of the world. And at first I'm like, okay, I think I see where they're going with her character, but for almost 2 hours, guys, because yes, this movie is 2 hours long, they reduce Penélope Cruz's character to somebody who just continues to remind the audience that I'm a mother, my kids, I'm a mother, my kids, that's all she talks about. And yes, I understand that she is someone who really cares about her family, but man, I don't get it. There's really no growth. And then when they give her a little bit of a moment at the end of the film, it sort of is just brushed on over. It's not really leaving a lot of impact. So I don't like the way they handle her character, and I also don't like how they handled Sebastian Stan's character here, Nick, who comes in the beginning and goes. And I'm just like, he's back and forth, and I don't know where exactly their minds were for his character. And there's a very questionable character decision in that third act that made me just scratch my head and think, this is just not the move. And honestly, none of the twists and turns worked for me, and the melodrama here, guys, is just so unbelievable, and it stinks because there's just so many uninteresting story beats in this film. Seriously, from scene to scene, I just could not get into the groove, like I mentioned earlier, with this movie. It really just never has a chance to breathe. We are going from location to location, and I just really felt like nothing settled with me. Even some of the more dramatic moments, I really was wondering, okay, when is this going to hit for me? When am I going to get hooked? And I never got there because the movie really just doesn't have a hook. So we have a boring first half. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie is not much better. Some really bad direction and writing in this film. What's left? When I get into a spy movie, I'm at least expecting the action to be fun. And here, like I mentioned in the positives, the action is cool, but it's the way that it's shot that just broke my heart. I mean, there's so much shaky cam, and it's unnecessary shaky cam. And then I also don't like the way that they cut. There's some awful and choppy editing here to where the action just never had any sort of, I don't know, impact on me as the viewer. I was just going through the motions, and you just don't want to see that. At least I don't want to see that from a spy movie. There's a lot of unnecessary moments where the cinematography also just doesn't make sense or contribute to the film. There's a conversation that Jessica Chastain has in the first half of the movie where there's this unnecessary spin around 360 shot, and I'm like, this line of dialogue is not dramatic. Like, there's nothing here that is very compelling. So I'll be completely honest with you, I think that the cinematography here probably didn't have a lot of direction either, which kind of falls back on the director a little bit, doesn't it? And on top of all of that, you guys, this movie is just far too long with zero staying power in the second half. I mean, it's over 2 hours long. There's no reason for this movie to be over 2 hours long, especially with the way that they were writing the story. If anything, I felt that the story could have been an hour and a half and been much more effective. They probably could have also focused more on our main cast and giving them more screen time together. Literally, the 355, this code name for these group of amazing kick-butt women, they don't really fully realize their strength together until like the final act. And I'm like, that's not what I came to the movie for. So I don't know, you guys. I just think the 355 overall is unfortunately a huge swing and miss. Simon Kinberg just doesn't necessarily have the biggest grasp on how to really do an action movie. That's the biggest issue here, is that this movie doesn't have an identity, and there's a lot of things technically wrong, and the actors try to salvage it, but they just can't. The script is just far too boring. It's just poorly written, and unfortunately I can't tell you guys that this movie is one I recommend that you watch, but if you do see it, you guys, I'm almost curious to see how audiences in a theater would react to this together. Maybe there's some fun to be had, but for me, I just never fell into this movie, and the 355 is gosh, it pains me to say this because I enjoyed the trailer, but the 355 is not good. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of the 355, the first movie that I'm reviewing in 2022. It's insane to say 2022 out loud, but guys, you're not going to want to miss out on the rest of this month because we're reviewing Scream, and guys, the rest of the year is gonna be insane. All right, I better start doing some stretches and maybe working on my wrist a little bit because I'm gonna be editing like crazy. But if you don't want to miss any of that content, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, and hit the thumbs up button again if you enjoyed this review, and get loud down below, guys, and just let me know what you think of the movie when you see it, because I'm really curious to see if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, or if you're kind of in the middle. Alrighty, y'all, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Oh wait, no, I just got over my PTSD flashbacks from Dark Phoenix. Dang it.